Although, if one doesn't essentialize that in terms of a particular role in the marriage, then I'm not necessarily sure even that's a bad thing. There are certain situations where I think there is mutual obedience in a marriage. And if one doesn't, if I'm not fixated on the fact, one might have, so to speak, an easier time here if it's a homosexual union, right? That there's no automatic typing of the Lord is this one and the servant is this one. Then I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad model. But that doesn't just, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But I think it's those sorts of things when one want to look at. And again, this is a place where getting away from a gender essential, one of the gifts of the challenge of same-sex unions is it gets away from thinking of marriage in terms of gendered roles that are highly typed and essentialized. There are other ways in which same-sex marriages can go very wrong, obviously, but there are also ways in which there are certain ways that configuration just raises different kinds of problems than are raised for a straight marriage. Does that help? So what I want to say here is what this does is this is a reminder that marriage is always to be defined eschatologically and understood eschatologically, and that what goes with that is we really don't know what a good marriage looks like. It's not that it's given and we then say, well, this one matches it and this one doesn't. It's that we're trying to figure out what the heck it looks like. And we have some pretty good clues of certain things that are very, very wrong. And we have some examples of things that certainly look really, really right. But there's a lot we really don't know about. And that's part of the discernment process. Both within each individual marriage and for the church as a whole. To the extent that you've gotten, think of the Shakers, who basically, a sect that comes out of Protestantism for whom, to hell with it, marriage is hopeless. We don't do that anymore. We have a bi-gendered community. They're both men and women, but they're separate.
Worked out well for them.
Well, actually, but what did they do? They adopted kids. That's what they did. And how did the Shakers end up breaking down? Because legislatures started passing laws saying we don't allow kids to be adopted by anybody, people of the same religion. But in fact, the Shakers were kind of a Protestant kind of monasticism that were modeling it. Again, one might say, well, history ruled it was a failure. But the point is that Christians are imaginative about these sorts of things. And it actually, and Shakerism, in a certain, had to be killed. It was effectively done. I guess there are still a few people up in Sabbath Day Lake, maybe, but basically they're done. Yeah.
Does this?
Oh, sorry. We have to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Does this particular orientation to reasoning will the kids bring the soteriological work of Christ in question?
I don't think so. Can you say more about what you're worried about?
Salvation.
Yeah, but how would it bring it into question? What's your worry?
What would we have to redefine salvation?
It depends on what you're already defining it as. If you define salvation as life with Christ, which is how I would be inclined to define it, then I think it's very consistent with the Christian notion of salvation. The issue is, how does marriage contribute to a life with Christ? And again, Paul's worry in 1 Corinthians 7 is that at best it's neutral. He doesn't really see how it has, in that passage at least, a positive thing to give to your life with Christ. It's better if you don't have it because you're less distracted. And what emerges in later Christian reflection is that no, this can actually be a means of working on life with Christ. It's a different, we have all our relationships in the church are to a certain extent trying to model and function our discernment to see Christ and experience Christ in community. Well, this is a one where I'm looking at a particular individual and covenanting with them to a certain kind of accountability and vulnerability that I don't have with other people. And that becomes a way of seeing this Christologically. But I think it would fit. I would like to think it fits in within a broader notion of what salvation is about. It's about figuring out and achieving life with Christ. And this is part of what that might look like prior to glory.
Let's all give Dr. McFarland a hand.